Meeting come to order. If you would, please stand, please. Powerful invocation. Dear God, thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to be here about the town's business. Be with us and guide us, direct us. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Gentlemen, you have the agenda before you. Is there any corrections or changes into the agenda that need to be made at this time? I will add on the last for closed session, the attorney asked that we also add land acquisitions to that as well as personnel discussion. We'll just please include that. Are there any other changes or corrections? If not, do I have a motion that we approve the agenda? Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you very much. Agenda stands. Do we have any presentation reports, Mr. Manning? Any presentations or reports? Department heads? I don't see any. Okay, we'll move quickly to our public hearings. Our first one is the conditional use permit to allow for a mixed-use development property within a B2 business zoning district on the corner of East Market Street. I'll recognize Mr. Ember to call us into that public hearing.
Okay, thank you. The applicant has received an administratively approved zoning permit to rehabilitate the commercial building located at 810 East Market Street. The planning department issued the zoning permit to allow for the upfit of the bottom floor for commercial use with the condition that the upstairs is to be used only for storage space in support of a downstairs commercial use. The applicant is now requesting the upstairs be used as a separate residential unit. The Town of Smithfield Unified Development Ordinance will allow for mixed uses within the B2 zoning district, providing a conditional use permit is issued by the Town Council. Required site improvements include off-street parking with associated ADA accessible handicap spaces, which will be accessed from the public alley located to the rear of the property and beside Sanders Funeral Home. The project will need to install a minimum of 3 parking spaces for the commercial unit and 2 parking spaces for the residential unit, in accordance with the Town of Smithfield UDO Article 18 off-street parking requirements. Parking will be needed to be installed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy in accordance with the Town of Smithfield UDO Article 13, Section 13-2. There is no space available for landscape improvements due to the density at which the site was originally developed. The site is served by town water, sewer, and electrical service. Your action form states that the planning board would be forwarding its recommendations to you. They met on last Thursday. They voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the request. The Smithfield Town Council is now requested to review the petition and make a decision for a conditional use permit to allow for mixed-use development on property located within the B2 zoning district.
Any questions for Ms. Dillon?
So there is a note, I know it's in the packet here, but as far as, I'm just not familiar with the rear of that property, there is enough space to get in and out and to provide adequate use.
Mrs. Godwin actually owns the property there, the house, the White House on the corner of the railroad, where the railroad street is, which is 9th Street. And she also owns the little single-story brick house beside the 2-story house. And what she's doing is gonna install the parking to the rear of the brick house, off, accessed by the alley. And we have reviewed this with her, and she will be able to develop a standard lot if at some time in the future she would want to recombine the property and sell the commercial property off as an individual piece. The parking could go with that.
Well, what if just the park, can the brick building be sold, and along with that, parking?
If she did, she could not meet the parking requirement for the commercial or the residential unit. Therefore, she would have to provide other parking in its place.
That's my main question. And then at which time, if that were to happen, the conditional use could be revoked for the residential
Yes.
section.
Any other questions for Ms. Dunn? Do I have a motion that we allow the conditional use permit in the mixed-use development?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Item number 2 is a hearing on a financing agreement for the Smithfield Crossing roadway project. I recognize Mr. Merritt for that, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On page 9 of your agenda packet, we do have a public hearing for the financing of the Smithfield Crossings project. And along with that, we will have resolutions that come with options moving forward, and we'll get into those. First, the public hearing is to just hear citizen comments on the project. We had one of these back in the spring. The project has changed a little bit. Financing has changed a little bit, so we need to have another public hearing just to hear any further input that might be out there for this project.
Being that this is also a hearing for public interest, is there any comments that'd like to be made from the public? Feel free to come forward about the Crossings project at this time. If you have any you'd like for us to hear, we'd be glad to listen. Okay. Not hearing any, I guess, Mr. Reddick.
Before we go into that, I'll just respond to a couple of questions that were brought up at the last Smithfield Crossings update meeting. One was how much we did spend during Fran out of the electric system to keep it running. The total on that, both Earl and I went back and dug through the files we could find from that. And the cost that I found that we asked for reimbursement for were $424,481. Also, the question was asked what our fund balance was in the electric fund, and I think I said I thought it was above 4.5. It's actually 4.654 million. So that's just to clarify those, and then I guess we can move into the options here about how we can move forward with this resolution process.
You should have a packet that we put on your desk this evening. There's actually 4 resolutions, and if you turn over to the second page, the one we've got entitled Resolution Number 1 is the original resolution that if you want to move forward with both projects at the same time, this resolution authorizes you to do short-term interim financing in the amount of $5,006,800, and that would be submitted to the Local Government Commission, and hopefully at the October or the November board meeting, we would come back and ask you to award the bids on both of those projects. If that's the action you wanted to take, then no further action would be necessary at this time, except the adoption of that resolution. If you want to move forward with Area A, what we call Resolution Number 2 has taken the $950,000 out of this resolution, and instead of $5 million that you're asking to do interim financing for, it would be $4,056,400. So that would be the actual resolution we'd be sending to the Local Government Commission to ask them to allow us to do financing for Area B. Resolution number 3 is where we, approved would actually authorize the electric fund to loan the project fund $950,400 to allow us to move forward on the project, which would be for a term of 18 months and with an interest rate of 1.13%. And that would authorize the actual transfer of those funds. Resolution 4, which would be the next page, would be to award the actual bid on Area A to ST Woot Corporation in the amount of $770,072. And we've broken out what the project funding is, and then this would actually award the bid subject to concurrence by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Before we can actually sign the documents, they have to concur that our project budget, project ordinances, and documents actually concur or meet all their requirements. Which they're in the process of reviewing now. So just to sort of reemphasize again, if you don't want to go ahead and move forward on Project A, you want to do both of them at the same time, then we ask you to adopt resolution number 1. If you want to move forward with Area A, go ahead and award the bids to ST Wood, we ask that you adopt resolution 2, 3, and 4. Which is the idea we broached with you last to you tonight on the bids.
Is there questions as to what the manager has recommended as the resolution?
Again, I just want to make sure, since, and thank you for getting that information, Justin, but since I did ask, and I think we're at the anniversary, or pretty near the anniversary of Fran, and we are in the peak, I think September 10th is the peak of hurricane season. If we were to borrow some funds from the electric fund, the $950,000, I want to make sure, Earl, since it's your department, that you feel comfortable with that in light of what we've already been through and the possibility of potential storms in the near future. You feel comfortable with borrowing this?
Any other questions about the resolutions or any clarifications we need to make?
What is the recommendation by the town manager?
My recommendation is you adopt resolution 2, 3, and 4, which would be to approve the interim financing of Area B in a couple of months. That would go ahead and authorize the loan from the electric fund to the project fund and award the bids to ST Wood for the Area A construction. That would be to adopt resolution 2, 3, and 4.
Which in essence, as we talked the other night, gives us a chance to be moving dirt within a few weeks to try to get at least 2 months ahead of the traffic for Christmas, which we would not do after October 31st, as we talked about. The board awarded the bid to ST Wooten, who I guess was granted the bid, is eager to begin and says he could do a lot of this work out there now, which would get us the economies of scale and be able to move the project along. It's been long waiting to get done, as we all know. But we want to make sure the board's satisfied on the process.
Richard or Justin, can you explain again, if we were to borrow them, go with the options 2, 3, and 4, which would mean that we did borrow money from the electric fund, how we intend to pay the fund back?
Repay that. The Federal Highway Administration grant is reimbursable at the end of the construction period, and as soon as this construction is complete, and as soon as NCDOT agrees to sign off on the work as far as the punch list items go, we could then file for reimbursement, and once that's drawn down, it would be paid back to the electric fund.
And with the exception of filing for the reimbursements, I mean, we see no problems with this grant. Is
I don't foresee any problems, with being.
Everything is on
being able
go.
to draw the.
And
grant
there- And there's no problem with getting the reimbursement?
Not as I know of. It's at the federal government level. It has been drawn down to the state level, according to DOT officials. I think we've been in contact with them at least 4 or 5 times over the past month. They seem to feel like there will not be any problem.
Okay.
As long as you meet all their conditions and get all the paperwork they have to include the project they're satisfied with. And that's not to say that something out of the extraordinary could happen.
Okay, now we've got another reimbursement coming to us on money we've already spent, correct?
Yes, we do. That would come at the point in time in which we issue our long-term note, our 7-year note for this project. That would be for Area B.
That's about $800,000, is that right?
Actually, that is the
850.
amount that has been expended. That's correct.
Yeah.
About 850.
About 850.
It's above 800,000. I don't know exactly what it is right now, but it is above 800,000.
I would feel a little more comfortable if we would, in this resolution 3, where go down to 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but where it says to be repaid, I would like to insert from the United States Department of Federal Highway Administration of the United States Department of Transportation grant.
I didn't record all that. Could we speak a little bit slower so I can record it? Or either
Just the
send it.
title of the grant, funds, the Federal Highway Administration.
Just the Federal Highway Administration grant.
Yeah, wherever this grant is coming from.
It is a federal highway administration.
Okay, the title of the grant, to be repaid from, and title the, where the grant's coming from, and then to the electric fund.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? Any other questions?
Well, comment more than question. Mr. Hicks, I want to thank you for jump-starting this project for us again. It's the most important project the town's had working for the last several years. We're almost at the finish line to start now. If we adopt resolutions 2, 3, and 4, I do not want this to be a precedent-setting way of financing, but this is an important project and we need to get it moving. I just want to make that clear to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Yeah, we won't, it'll be this project and this project only, and that will be done this way, at this point in time.
That's the understanding, that's correct. Okay. Any other questions or clarifications? Are we ready to make a decision? Do I have a?
Mayor, I just got one
Yes.
more question.
Sure.
I was just out there, and before we approve the financing, I want to be comfortable knowing that the soil out there, we know the conditions, and that it is going to be prepped correctly, and that the roads out there are going to be done right. I mean, the roads that are out there right now are absolutely terrible. And with this camp, we should have never, ever allowed those roads to go in. Something's wrong, obviously. I don't know what it is.
Speaking of Venture Road.
Yes, out in that area. I just want, we had the engineers, this probably would have been a better question for the engineers last week, but I didn't think about it at the time. I mean, do we have, what kind of inspections do we have for this resurfacing? So, I mean, I know it's going to have to meet state guidelines, but is the engineering company that was here last week, are they the ones that actually do the inspections for us?
Hawk can probably answer that question better, but yeah, there will be. Our engineers will have inspectors, DOT will have inspectors, and the town will also have staff out there.
Our engineer, Ramey Kemp and Associates, has inspection services as well as contract administration, all the construction work that's going to be going on in Part A and Part B. NCDOT will be participating with oversight inspection and providing a resident on the ST Wooten portion of the property, as well as they will be aiding some. We don't know to what extent yet. It's going to be on availability of their funds, but they have indicated they will be on Part A, the other contract also. So we'll actually have two looking. In addition to that, as far as staff will be concerned, Public Works with Lenny will be working with it and overseeing occasional inspections. And then the planning department will also be for purposes of pay requests, because we work with the engineer in order to process the pay request. So there'll be numerous eyes looking at it, but the responsible firm will be our engineering firm.
The specs that are designed for Area B were in accordance with DOT standards, which were probably a lot more stringent than what they put out there several years ago. So I think it'll be all right.
Because I know Lenny's department right now is probably run ragged repairing the, where's Lenny? You know, making patches and so forth out there, and I get complaints all the time from various business owners and so forth. So this is a huge and a major project for us, but I just want to make sure that we don't rush into things just to get it started and get it moving. I think we need to spend some time on the front end prepping it and getting it ready so that we put in quality work out there. So I just want to make sure that that is done.
We have done this project on a unit price bid, which means it was required by the state and the federal government on this, is that, and we did, in order to determine the units that would need to be used and how much quantity would be used, we did extensive soil testing. So we've got a good estimate in the bid, and then while it's being inspected, the quantities will be measured and kept up with as the work is progressing. So it will be a progressive watch over the expenditures on the project.
Any further questions? Do I have a motion that we adhere to what resolution would you like to adopt?
I make a motion we adopt resolutions 2, 3, and 4 as recommended by the town manager.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Justin. Okay, moving to public hearing number 3, the amendment to zoning ordinance and zoning map of downtown historical overlay zoning district. I recognize Mr. Embler and Mr. Johnson.
The applicant is requesting to rezone 26 tracts of land totaling approximately 3.63 acres from the B1 Central Business District to the B1 Central Business with HO Historic Overlay Zoning District. The parcels are identified in your packet by county tax number. The petition, if approved, will create a separate zoning district that will mirror what is currently recognized by the Department of Cultural Resources and reflected on the National Registry of Historic Places. The proposed local historic overlay district will not affect the underlying zoning district, and that all uses currently allowed in the B1 zoning district can be considered for future approving and permitting. To further explain the intricacies of the overlay district, Chris Johnson is here. He's worked extensively with it, and upon the completion of his presentation, I will go over the staff comments on that with you.
I'm here on behalf of the Historical Properties Commission. I don't know if anybody in this audience is part of it, but what we're looking at doing is basically creating a local historic district that is identical to the already existing National Historic District. The footprint is the exact same. The standards, the design standards are the exact same as the National Register, as well as a local oversight commission for approval. I have spoken to and notified every property owner. Pretty much 75% of the property owners have already gone through this application at the national level, so this is nothing new. Actually, this is the local district only applies to the things outside where the national district applies to the things, both exterior and interior. So it's not an extra layer of things or requirements is identical, because we follow the same standards as the National Department of Interior, but it's just a feather in our cap for the community to have a local district. We started this process when we started looking at properties that are outside the district, such as the Bingham House and the Hastings House, that are kind of in no man's land, that were properties that were not included in any kind of protection. And in the process of doing that, we felt that it would be easier and be something that the state could recognize when we were applying for grants if we have a local district. And the easiest way we felt was just to go ahead and mirror what was already there. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Johnson?
I've had more comments or questions from people outside the district as opposed to people inside the district. They wanted to know why weren't they included. And it was all done voluntarily back in the early 90s when the national district was first applied or created. And it's something that we can expand if the property owner so chooses.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Chris, that's one question. I see, I think this is the area right out here.
It's basically from the old town hall to the movie theater, to Jules, to the town hall park.
Yeah, town hall.
And then all of Jimmy Nairn's property, minus Mark Hall's old building, and then the Heritage Center. That's basically the district that was established, like I said, in 1992, whenever that was created.
Okay.
That's the same.
It's the exact same. I was just wondering on the town hall park, was that a mistake, or it was definitely included?
I think it was included because there used to be the old department store that was, for whatever reason, the land was included, but it's a non-contributing piece of property, but it was just, for whatever reason, in 92, I guess there was an old New York market, I think, that used to stand there, that building.
We used to stay in the market years ago.
Analysis of the zoning petition by the planning staff finds the following general conditions. The conditions are important to consider prior to the approval of the rezoning request. Any motion to find for or against the petition must be supported by a statement of specific reasons or conclusion for each of the following. 1, the zoning petition is in compliance with all applicable plans and policies of the town of Smithfield. This particular historic overlay district is not addressed by the Smithfield Comprehensive Growth Management Plan. That was beyond the intent of that particular document. 2, the zoning petition is compatible with established neighborhood patterns of the surrounding area. The downtown business district is predominantly comprised of early 20th century architecture and is relatively intact. 3, the rezoning petition is compatible with the changing neighborhood conditions that might warrant rezoning. The property is currently zoned B1, creating a historic overlay district will serve to preserve the sense of place and architectural integrity of the downtown business district. 4, the rezoning request is in the community's best interest. Creating a local historic overlay district that recognizes the significance of historic structures assures that current and future generations a quality of life which they have come to expect. 5, the request does not constitute spot zoning. Due to the nature and scale of the request, it is unlikely that an argument for spot zoning could be made for this overlay district. 6, present regulations deny or restrict the economic use of the property. The present regulations do not deny economic use of the property within the proposed district, but do not address the unique qualities found in the historic architecture. 7, the availability of public services allow consideration of this rezoning request. The Historic Properties Commission and the Historic Preservation Design Guidelines are approved and in place and ready to serve their intended purpose. And all public services are already available to all the locations in the district. The Planning Board at its August the 4th, 2011 meeting unanimously voted to recommend approval of the rezoning reclassification from the the B1 Central District to the B1 Central District with Historic Overlay zoning district. The action requested by the council is to review the petition and make a decision for zoning reclassification from the B1 Central Business District to the B1 Central Business with Historic Overlay zoning district. Stand open for questions.
Paul, are there any benefits or pros and cons for the council to understand whether or not we approve this or not?
I'm going to defer that to Chris to answer that question. I am not much of an architectural buff, a historical architectural buff, and they have been working on it for a while.
Well, traditionally, things that have a local district, whether local or national recognized, property values tend to be higher in value because there's a sense of, like Paul said, a sense of place and sense of ownership, and also things that are taken a little bit better care of. And then also it protects adjacent property owners in the sense of what is being done to a building that may be next to them. Again, all of these structures are already under a national register. The buildings that have not been rehabbed, or i.e. the old town hall, for that property to work would have to go through the national register, which is, this is just identical to that.
Are there any financial benefits for the landowners, grants, taxes, anything along those lines?
Yes, well, they fall under the current, what we already have in place, the 20% federal, the 20% federal, 20% state matching grants, which Mr. Narron, myself, and several other property owners have already done downtown in rehabbing their buildings. So there is financial gain for this is just basically just another check mark, or like I said earlier, a feather in our cap saying that we have a local district. The national district and the local district mirrors each other. And it's just basically, before anything happens, there's a local board that looks at it before sending it up to the state. Right now, when David Johnson and myself redid the last building downtown, nobody locally looked at it. It was just sent to the state approved it, and sent to the federal approved it. It was just allowing, by having a local district, just localized, get a chance to look at what's going to be submitted to the state and federal government.
One point of clarification, that any of the uses that are currently allowed in the B1 zoning district will also be allowed when it's rezoned. So the use of the properties will not change.
This ties us into an existing classification in our zoning ordinance.
Yes, B1 is present classification. We do not have the historic overlay district. That's what we're actually doing, is putting the overlay district on the property.
Do we have certain restrictions as to how we don't have that? So we will draft that later.
No, it's just basically strictly on design right now, where our building would look and how, what modifications can be done. That's done, again, like I said, through the state and what's already existing there. It's just a local.
We're not restricting the Raleigh.
Well, it has to be approved at the state, but then it goes to the excuse me, it has to be approved. It would have to be approved locally and then approved at the state and then approved nationally, which our design guidelines are identical to theirs.
Is our, I just haven't checked it. Is our code provide procedure in Raleigh? There's a specific procedure for, if you want to put vinyl siding on a building, you got to get it approved. Understand? And you got to get it through a Raleigh inspector. If you don't, you want, I suppose there are other restrictions. I don't remember all the details of it. I remember that one.
Most of the, like I said, most of the buildings, such as the properties that I own, the properties that the Narrons own, what used to be Perfect Touch, all these properties have already been rehabbed to the state and federal standards, which are already in place and done here. I guess the question is that if something comes up now for the old town hall, that it just goes before the local submitting it to the state and the federal.
And that local commission is basically another level of overview, and that commission would have to be appointed by the town council at the time it is established.
No, that's already been established.
You're talking about the historic.
The Historic Properties Commission, yes.
But the review commission is at least.
I was assuming that the same commission was the review commission, but I may be mistaken there.
Council have any more questions or concerns?
I did notice in the notes of the planning board minutes that this would, there'd be a one-year waiting period before allowing a structure to be demolished. I noticed that question came up.
The example that we used, or we referred to in our meetings and the discussion is, and I'm just using a hypothetical situation that many people in Smithfield are familiar with, and not just a single point of a business that did this, but there was not the old hotel, but the old hospital that used to be on the corner of Bridge Street and North 2nd Street. And there were a lot of citizens that were upset when that building was removed, seemingly overnight without anyone's knowledge, for a parking lot. The intent of this organization is, and I believe I was quoted in the minutes, as just giving the community some time to breathe to make sure what they're going to be doing is what the community wants to be done.
I enjoyed reading this. It's interesting for me to read about all of these buildings and the historical value of those and history. Very interesting reading, I thought. I didn't know a lot of this.
Chris, I'm not against any of this. It would be against preserving the heritage.
Right.
I'm concerned we've got this tied in all well ordinances and statute. And I haven't gone through all those ordinances. I wish I had. I'm surprised my different application of law. We may need to look at that even now or later. Be sure there's not a step here somewhere that sets out exactly what you do step by step if you want to change an Aaron building down there. Someday, somebody will want to do it, maybe 50 years from now.
The only concern I have about this is, and it's probably not a real valid concern, is the situation with the old town hall municipal building here, Old Johnson Hotel, the state it's in. And that's the only issue I see. Not advocating we tear that building down, but I know that building has had some issues. Hopefully this would help somebody move forward on that building to do something with it.
Well, something that we are, it's a battle that I fight, not daily, weekly, in discussions with whomever. I'm a preservationist, and I see value in it. The committee, that group that came from the grant, said there's value in it. What I've heard is that we ought to knock it down and have more parking. However, the footprint of the building is less than 5,000 square feet, so the net gain of knocking down a building of that size, you're talking about maybe 6, 7 parking spaces. So you're losing something of great value for 7 parking spaces. Now, 10 years from now, if it needs to be torn down, then the point is that at least allow the community to have a say, or at least in the historical properties group that's appointed by this commission, by this council, to say, well, we don't agree with that, or we do agree with it. It may be something that the commission may agree to. But it's something I'm constantly working on, and if I win the lottery, that's the first piece of property I'm going to buy.
You put that in writing?
I will. I promise. My wife's already there.
Would it prejudice you if we continued this 30 days and went on all these ordinances again?
problem with that, but, you know, from a layman's term, not from a legalistic term, is just, as I understand it, if somebody would like to do something that would draw interest from the planning department or either the inspection department, that it would throw up a flag saying, this is under the local historic district and it needs to be brought, whatever designs that you're planning on, changes that you're making outside, not inside, outside, needs to go before the commission. And just,
Would the council feel better if we table for 30 days and get the attorney's questions answered? Are you ready to move forward this evening?
I was ready to move forward till he spoke up.
It's my job to speak up, so
We appreciate that.
I am concerned, and I'm not concerned with the project, okay, or the idea. Just want to be sure we implement it right. I'd like to pull together all our provisions in one place, and the three of us look at it with the statute book.
again, out of 26 pieces of property, 14 are owned by either Mr. Narron or Ms. Narron and myself and a couple of others. So I can say right now that over 50% of the property owners are in favor of it right now, but if the council
That's not an issue. I mean, that's not an issue. Up to y'all.
Is there any urgency?
I don't know of any. No, I haven't been expressed to any.
It's not, it's just, it had to come up before y'all sometime, so.
I'll make a motion that we delay this for 30 days, or at least till the next meeting, to try to answer some of Mr. Spence's concerns, and hopefully he can come back with a report to us, because, I mean, I agree. I mean, if he's got some current concerns, then we definitely need to
I second
try
that.
to address those.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good project.
See you next month.
We'll answer the question. Thank you, Mr. Spence. Public hearing number 4, conditional use permit for adult daycare. Mr. Emler?
Proper spot, I moved my paper clip. This is basically for information to you. The applicant had intended to be here tonight, but under the requested action, I will read that to you so that you can understand why it's not going to be considered tonight. No action is required. This information is provided to the town council. As noticed, that the planning department will continue to work with the petitioner in obtaining the conditional use permit. Originally, the petitioner desired to have the town council hear the case at its September the 6th meeting due to the uniqueness of the month of September, where the planning board's regular scheduled meeting occurs prior to the town council's scheduled meeting, thus allowing the potential issuance of a conditional use permit 30 days sooner than normal. Due to a miscalculation of the advertisement schedule created by the shortened time frame, the legal advertisements for the September meeting could not be placed in the newspaper. The legal advertisement for the conditional use permit will be submitted to the newspaper in sufficient time for the case to be properly advertised for the October meeting of the town council. Basically, the state law, the general statutes state that you can advertise no sooner than 25 days before the hearing, but no later than 10 days. So we could not get the correct days in there to get it in for your hearing today.
So that narrative is simply information. not
That's
public
simply
hearing.
information, no public hearing whatsoever for that.
Duly received as information shared. We'll address it as time petition is rendered to us. Is anything under public hearing petition? Mr. Hill? We'll move to the next section under citizens' comments. If there's anyone who wishes to be heard, yes, ma'am. If you will, for me, if you can come here to the podium and state your name and address for the clerk so she can record it, I'd appreciate it. Chief, could you see if that other lady would like to share before we go on? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lynn Johnson, and I'm at 206 Longview Drive, Rose Manor. And first, if I wouldn't be here if everybody in town, in the work for the town, was as responsive as Lenny Branch. So Lenny can take a bow.
He'll be glad to collect later, I'm
I'm sure. I think
I'll
I
pay
owe
you
him-
later.
I think I owe him brownies.
Okay.
The problem that I'm having, and I've had it for 18 months now, so now it's time to tell you guys about it and let you guys do something about it, is water bills. My water bill comes 2 days before it's due, 3 days before it's due. I've gotten it on the day it's due. If you're traveling, you can't call in and electronically pay because they don't accept electronic payments. If you call in and say why, you get, I've been told, it snowed. I've been told there was a holiday. I have been told we're changing the computer system. In other words, I get an alibi. I'm not getting any action. I feel like I ought to get at least 14 days to get the bill in, particularly when it's got to be mailed to Charlotte. And that's not an unreasonable request. I'm going on vacation. I called today and I said, what is my water bill for this month so that I can make arrangements to have it paid on time, in a timely manner. As of this afternoon, according to Mr. Hicks, who checked it too, the reading was not in the system. I have a due date of the 20th. The bill that comes out says that it's issued on the last day of the month. Now, if that bill comes in and it says it was issued on the last day of last month, and they don't have the reading yet, how can they do that? We need to look at how this is set up, and we either need to adjust the timing of when it's due, or we need to get the meter readers out. I'm not even sure my meter gets read half the time. I've got some serious questions about that. I actually had one instance where I demanded it be reread, and it was actually 4 units less than they said it was, and that was a month later. So we've got some problems here, and we need to address them. And I know with an interim town manager, it would be a town manager problem. Except we got an interim town manager, bless his heart, we don't know how long we're going to have him. You guys need to look into this, and it needs to be corrected. I mean, it's not unreasonable for me to say, if it's the 6th of the month and I've got a water bill due the 20th, I'd like to know how much it's due. Is that unreasonable? That's my gripe for tonight.
Thank you very much. And just for follow-up, just very quickly, Mr. Hicks, although he is an interim, we've talked about that this afternoon, and the full review will be done of the billing cycle.
I'm sure that I have no question about him, but I told him I might come tonight. It's not him. It's the fact that this has been going on for over 18 months. And that's, what, 3 managers? Did I 4 managers? I think it started with Pecan. So that's.
But there will be a full review. We do appreciate your response. We do. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to be heard, please come forward. We'll be glad to hear you. Yes, ma'am. If you'll please state your name and address for us for the clerk. Thank you.
Barbara Fansler, 410 North 5th Street, here in Smithfield. I've been here a little bit over a year. I've never been to a town hall meeting in my life. I've spoken in front of people, but I'm not shy, as I told Chief, where is he over there, Scott. I had some different ideas. I'm an optimist, a bit of a dreamer, and I just wrote these things out, present what my ideas are, and you tell me how this goes, because I don't know. My father had grown up in a town, moved away, came back, and it was in a different condition. He started something, this is in upstate New York, South Rome Improvement Association. So on the name of my little thing, I put North Smithfield Improvement Association. I stole from my own man. The purpose of this kind of a group would be to make Smithfield a more welcoming community that offers more curb appeal, safer streets, help to our elderly residents, neighbors, and activities for our young people. Those young people on the streets, they need to keep busy with good activities, keep away from trouble. And then addressing the first thing, the curb appeal for the unkept yards, and I'm told that there is someone who goes around and gives out citations. Hasn't been doing so much lately, but will be doing more, where lawns are overgrown or too much junk in a yard, things like that. And I mean, maybe a couple of warnings for somebody, and they have to do it by a certain time, and then you fine them. Maybe you already do that, I don't know. The other thing, the next thing on my list, safer streets, neighborhood watch programs work. People need to participate, and they need to report when they see things, hear things. I've done it. I've picked up my phone and called 911 more times since I've been here than ever in my life. And that's only because my first 2 months here were rough. I moved in last July. At that time, there was a woman murdered on 3rd. There was that shooting on, I believe, the 6th. There was some trouble in the neighborhood. And I ran out and got me my ADT. Never had one, but I got one now. And it's been quiet. You know, it's been good. There are still issues, but I still see more good in the world and in people than anything. I have faith in that. But we need to report when we see things. And I had an idea that my brother corrected me on. I was thinking, oh, just take pictures with our cell phones and our cameras when we see offenses, when we see drug dealers approaching a 12-year-old child. Do you want to buy pot? Or when we see the cars pulling over and the prostitutes doing their dealings in the middle of the afternoon in the middle of our neighborhoods. But then he enlightened me that for me to take a photo, flash, and all that, and draw the attention to myself, I'd be drawing myself, my daughter, you know, my family into danger. So I don't want to do that. But if I see it, if I can make note of it, unbeknownst to the people, I will. And I will pick up my phone and I will call the police and report it. And I'll say, oh, there's this vehicle that I know about that's right here and they're doing this right now. Come get them. Be nice if there was a group everywhere, if there were groups everywhere for that kind of a thing. And report vehicles that are cruising the neighborhoods looking at our kids. My daughter turned 13. On her birthday, a group of the girls were playing in my front yard. I'm on 5th Street, I just told you. And they're up there in shorts and tanks and whatever. It's been an overnight birthday party. A truck pulls up, and he's been seen other places. I don't know who it is, and I didn't get the tag number. But pulls up, backs up, pulls up, and seems to take a picture of the girls. I have a description of the vehicle. I'll be happy to give the police chief later. That's my daughter. I went home and asked her, and she told me the colors and the design. Once again. Let me see here. Where was I? Oh, and also, please, if people, or if someone, or anyone, tries to approach your home trying to sell property, it seems like, oh, gee, maybe it came from somebody else's yard, report it, don't buy it. I've had clippers and such stolen from my yard. I've had my rakes taken. I received them. I got them back. My rakes were taken. The man was charged because he took my rakes and went across the street and tried to sell them to my neighbor. The man's not quite there, but I'm sure he's the one who got my clippers and sold them to somebody. So if somebody comes up with this great deal of, here's all this stuff for $5, don't give him the $5. Tell on him. Okay, 3, next thing. Helping elderly neighbors. First off, we should know our neighbors. Elderly should be checked on, I believe, during storms, extreme heat or cold, and also if you don't see them for numerous days. If you know, like I know, I have an 85-year-old gentleman across the street, and I don't see him for days, I get wondering. I'll go over, I'll start calling, banging on his doors, whatever. Because God forbid somebody's elderly and they fall down and they can't get to the phone and there's nobody else out checking on them, you know? We don't all live in our family towns anymore. We're very separated throughout this country and others. I care about the elderly. I'm going to be more elderly one day, and I want someone to care about me. And something recently, kind of on this same page, in this last year, I'll say it was, I'm not good with the memory of exactly when it was, but in Fayetteville, there was an article I read or saw on the news, something. But in Fayetteville, a group of volunteers or maybe a group like this, association thing I'm talking about, went to neighborhoods. I'm not sure how they selected them. They just maybe went to the people living there and asked them, what would you like done if you need some help with your home? If you have elderly who would like their yard maybe prettier with plants and the porch painted, but they're not able to do it any longer, maybe volunteers could do that. And they did that in Fayetteville. And that's beautifying the community. It's making more of a community, getting people together. And if young people are involved in it, it's teaching them lifelong lessons and building self-esteem and pride, because I know that when I do something good for someone, I feel better. I feel good about me. And that's another way of keeping our kids heading where we'd like them all to go, which is on to college and good, happy lives. And something to, motivation is needed. You can't just say, you know, walk up to the kids. I have one, I know, you have to give them something back. You know, oh, go do this, you know, it'll make you feel good. No. But other ideas are certainly welcome from whoever ends up being involved with this, I hope. Perhaps a city commendation that is stamped on it and signed by, and that they could be the students or the young people could use, whether in a work resume, in a college application, just in their personal reference history, a positive something that they can walk away with, you know, have something. That's a motivation when you have something like that. Not that they're going to get paid, because there's not money flowing, but there's payment in other ways than cash. Let's see. The best for last. This is my little dream. Teen center for kids. I was lucky enough to grow up near an air base that had a teen center and was able to attend it, so I know what it offered, and I see the kids around here and what this town has to offer. We have Howell Theater. I'm told there used to be a roller skating rink. I'm told there used to be a putt-putt, but those things don't exist. I know that there is SRAC. I've been there. It's like the YMCA. It costs a pretty good penny to be a member, and your family and all that. I don't know if everybody knows it, but I asked, and they do, as well as the YMCA, offer discounted memberships for people in different income levels. And I'm one of those people. I live on disability, and it makes it possible that if I were to fill out my application, bring it back, I could get it at, I'm not sure how much of a discount, but I don't know if everybody knows about that. And I'm sure they're not announcing it because they're a business. They want the full paying memberships. Not that there's a limit, but let more people know that it's there. That'd be good. They do have a great basketball court inside, fitness center, swimming pool, a lot of the activities that are great for teens. But that building, that's not accessible to everybody. A teen center for the city's teen center, Smithfield Teen Center, would be for anybody in Smithfield. And the one I went to, they had different opportunities to do music. There was a music room with piano. There was a basketball court that was also used at night, weekend nights for dances. There was a television and seating area so you could watch movies and hang out with your friends. And what did I say here? Teens can hang out and socialize appropriately, practice teamwork, have fun, and maybe learn something. Can offer basic art kind of classes. Nothing, it doesn't have to be expensive. The hardest thing is finding a place to do it. And all those different experiences of doing different things there, the playing of the video games, basketball, pool table, art things like making jewelry or garden stones, murals, all of this stuff. It's going to expose kids to new ideas and can help them find things that they enjoy and are good at, helping them again with the self-esteem and pride, and maybe pointing to their futures, what interests them. Okay, C, I'm off that one.
Can I do this for you?
Yes.
We've got a very healthy agenda, and we've got some tremendously good ideas. What I would like to see us do is start with that first group of ideas that you had, that chief, maybe in some of the community watch programs. And then go down your list and plug you in and get some ideas from you for the different centers and different things, if we can do that.
That's great.
We value your
Free time.
input, and we thank you a lot for bringing this to our attention. Okay?
Yes.
Chief, if you would make sure you'll get her started on the community watch programs, and then we can plug you in and get others involved.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
Thank you very
I've been
much for
talking
your
to some
time.
people.
Thank you very much.
I'm a talker. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else with a citizen comment? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? We're moving to the new business, presentation of Johnston County Comprehensive Transportation Plan. I think we've got DOT reps here to give us a plan. Follow up. Go ahead.
The NCDOT over the last 18 months has been working with the county and all municipalities to develop a comprehensive transportation plan for Johnston County. A series of public presentations and meetings has been conducted countywide concerning the comprehensive transportation plan. Public comments have been received. NCDOT is now in the process of making public presentations to the county commissioners and all the governing boards of the municipalities included in the plan. The CTP process will be completed and finalized when the county and all the municipalities pass resolutions adopting the CTP. Tonight, we have representatives from DOT to make presentations. They've been here on 2 previous occasions with the town council, and they have come back now to, the plan has been finalized, and they are making the presentation to all the municipalities in the county. So without that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us here. As Paul said, I just want to give you a brief overview of the CTP and move on for action. I will go ahead and say that I'll keep it brief tonight, but if you have any questions, just halt me and we'll go ahead and do them then, or if we have anything, we can do that too. But you should all have a handout of this presentation I'm about to give, and then you should all also have a map set that looks like this, but I believe it's the size of your packet. But we're just going to go through that. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the CTP. So just a brief overview of the CTP. Hit up. Sorry, this is not reading very well. Yeah. Okay, how about we just go through the handout? Will that work for you? Let's just forget that. All right. I just want to give you an overview of the CTP, okay? It's going to replace the old thoroughfare plans. The county had one that was not adopted. It was done in 2001 but not adopted. Smithfield, Selma, Pine Level had one. There are some various areas in the county that had some. It's going to replace those as a county-wide plan. It's multimodal, meaning the old thoroughfare plans were just highway only roadway maps, and so this one has other modes to it. It's a long range, meaning our horizon year for this year's, or for this plan is 2035. You have it working now?
I think so.
Okay.
I think on the slide it did.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna risk sending it
Okay.
back.
Okay. And it's also fiscally unconstrained, meaning we don't take funding into account. The toll road ideas for I-95 are not taken into account in this plan at all. So funding is not taken into account at all. The CTP committee that developed this plan, we had representation. Scott and I represented NCDOT. We also had local NCDOT on there, but all the municipalities that were involved, the county, RPO and MPO all had representation on the committee. The idea of the plan ultimately is we find out where the problem areas are. That's what we call the transportation deficiencies. That helps us find out where the improvements need to be. So that's the basic idea of how we get around to making these different improvements. What we like to call it is a needs list for the year 2035. Basically what improvements will be needed at that point based on the data that we have right now. Just a couple disclaimers. The CTP does not make a promise to build roads, and it doesn't determine a pinpoint location of where roads are going to go, any new roads. It's a conceptual plan. It's based on what we know right now. The final plan is gonna look like a map set, just like this. This is your final map set that you've got in front of you. And then there's also a written report that documents everything the committee has gone through. There's a spreadsheet that documents every single improvement on here. You all will get a chance to look at that entire report and comment on it as well once that's finished. But what you are actually adopting is the map set and those recommendations on there. So in the end, we adopt it and endorse it at these 3 different levels. The local and the regional are what we're taking care of right now. And then after all those are done, as Paul said, the Board of Transportation for NCDOT will adopt this. And at that point, it will be officially the new transportation tool for the county. So the slide on the bottom left of this front page is just, oh, okay, got it right there now. Well, let me just pass it, okay? Okay, we include this slide just to show you, this is an idea of, or a flow chart basically of a project development with the stages that a typical project with DOT would go through. We include this just to show you where the CTP study is. It's at the very top left. The very, very beginning stage of any project that would become publicly funded. Way before environmental studies, any roadway design, and of course before construction and anything like that. And so our next slide, got it working now? Okay, good deal. This is a typical flow chart of a CTP and the progress that the committee has made. Everything on the left there we have accomplished as the committee. We've taken this to you guys before and updated as we've come along. So now we're at the adoption phase. Last time when we were here, we were at the recommended plan phase. We were getting your comments on that. And so now we're at the adoption phase. We just wanted to give you a quick run through of the various recommendations and where we started with those. The highway recommendations have a lot more data behind them. We have a lot of traffic collection, data collection, things like that that go into traffic projections to help us find out where traffic counts are going to be at that point. We have safety and crash data. We also take into account a lot of local ideas. Our committee is very helpful in that respect. We look at all the local plans that are in existence as well. The other modes, the bicycle, pedestrian, things like that, there's less data behind there, and so more of those ideas come from the local plans and the help from the committee members and the locals. And as far as our recent changes, as Paul said, we've also had some public involvement sessions. We had those in April and May. And we also came around to you guys and to all the other municipalities and the county, and we had some comments, and those were incorporated. This just gives you a good rundown of what has been incorporated since you saw us last. And that will all be reflected in these new maps. And then we have one slide that summarized our public involvement sessions as well. We had those in Benson, Clayton, and here in Smithfield. They all had pretty good turnout. Overall, we had very positive input, no opposition to anything in general. We also had some good publicity in various news articles and things like that. So overall, very good response in the public and from when we presented our draft recommendations to you guys. So what we wanted to do is just take you real quick through the map set that you've got in front of you in your packets there and just familiarize you with it. You've seen them before, so they don't look much different than what we came last time and showed them to you. But the basic idea is you have a cover sheet, it's what we call the adoption sheet, but up in the top left corner is going to summarize all of the adoptions and the endorsements. Right now, I don't think the one that you have in your packet when we sent it here, we had anything on it, but Wilson's Mills has adopted, and then just this morning, the county commissioners adopted as well. So those 2 dates are reflected on there, and they'll keep getting filled in as we go throughout our presentations. So that's the point of that cover sheet there. The next sheet is your highway sheet. The basic idea of the rest of these maps is anywhere that you see a dashed line is a recommendation. The solid lines are roads that we studied and no recommendation was found to be needed. So the other ones reflect the different recommendations on there. So you're going to have your county one, and then you'll see that they all have inset boxes. And if you flip to the next ones, you're going to have your different inset boxes. So the first page has an inset for Clayton, and then it also includes the one for Smithfield and Selma. What we have reflected in here, just a couple things to highlight, and if y'all have any questions about me, I know it's a lot to look at, but we've included the Smithfield crossings projects as much as we could fit in the detail in here. We've got the community college plan on there. Some other things, we're reflecting the Booker Dairy Road projects, which is almost complete now, but technically it's not fully complete, so we still show it as a new road on here. 301, we're showing improvements on that. Market Street, 70 Business all the way out to 70 has some improvements, Buffalo Road. So a lot of work has gone into this. There's been a lot to go on in Smithfield, so I think we've got some good projects going on in there. But if you flip to the next page, that shows your other insets for other areas of the county. We've got the Cleveland area, Wilson's Mills, Four Oaks, and Kinley. So the next page is your public transportation and rail map. So this is when we get into the other modes besides highway. The main points to hit on here are that this displays the existing rail lines in the county. The recommendation, the blue dotted line, is to recommend a commuter rail line on the existing rail line from Wake County down to Selma. And those Ps that you'll see on there are park and ride recommendations. Those are approximate. We've got a disclaimer on here on this map to show that, but they're approximate. They're based on information that we have from the locals, but you know, those are not set in stone until way down the line. There's also a connector up in Clayton that would it would connect a place for people to park, and also with the bus route and the commuter rail line up there as well. So if you flip to the next page, that offers your insets for those different projects. So your next map is going to be your bicycle map, and that's a county-wide view again, but we've got some insets on there as well. There's not much going on outside the insets except for that yellow line is reflecting the Mountains to Sea Trail. So if you go to your next page are the insets for that. In the Smithfield inset, we have reflected the Mountains to Sea, and we're also showing that solid yellow line is the existing greenway y'all got going on now. And so you've got some other insets down there. Your next page is the Clayton inset. The majority of their recommendations came from a bicycle plan that they already had. The CTP committee just added a few more to that as well. And that also reflects the Mountains to Sea Trail through their area as well. So your last map is your pedestrian map. Sort of the same as the bicycle map. There's not a lot going outside the insets of the various towns except for the Mountains to Sea Trail. That's a multi-use, so we reflected on both those maps. Your first page of insets for those, we've got Wilson's Mills, Selma, and we've got ones for Smithfield. This will also, the solid lines on here are your existing sidewalk and pedestrian facilities. So everywhere you see a dotted line is where we would recommend some facilities or some improvements to facilities. And then your last map is just some other insets for those as well. So besides that, I know that's a lot to take in, but wanted to be brief about it. We've shown you guys these before. Our next slide is just to show you the next steps of this. After our adoptions are done, we're taking care of those over the next few months. As I said before, we get the technical report out to you guys. We get comments on that as well. That'll encompass everything that we've gone through, our entire process from beginning to end. And we included this just to show you our adoption and endorsement schedule. Y'all are the third presentation we've got, and we got a good bit to go from here on out, but we've got 2 done so far. And I think that's it. At this top website right here, it's our CTP website. If you have any interest in the other presentation schedules, just keep an eye on that, because a few of those dates may change possibly. But right now, that's what we've got going on. And just to re-clarify, what we're asking for tonight is adoption of the maps that you got in front of you. I believe the resolution states that you are adopting what is in your ETJ, in your planning jurisdiction, and endorsing the remainder of the plan. So the endorsement is viewed more as a courtesy, but just that you approve of the remainder of what's going on with the plan as well. Anything to add? Okay.
Sorry, I don't know how to run this thing.
We had it working early, it's okay. But if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to take them now.
Any questions from the DOT representative? This has been a comprehensive study and plan that's been going on for quite some time, so.
Almost 2 years.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
Well, except that the resolution is included in your packet, and reemphasize what Sarah said, that you will be adopting, if you so act on the resolution, the parts that particularly pertain to Smithfield, and you will be endorsing the rest of the plan for the remainder of the county by acting on that resolution. So the consideration, the request is for the council to take it into consideration and act upon the resolution adopting the CTP.
Do I have a motion that we adopt this resolution for the CTP?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed? It is a lot to comprehend, but mostly great improvements. We're excited about what's happening in Smithfield. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, new business under item 2, approval of the temporary license agreement, bridge beautification between the town of Smithfield and CSX Transportation. Mr. Manager, I recognize you.
You have a copy of the proposed agreement. I think the discussion in the past was looking for a way to make improvements to the railroad bridge, or at least clean the bridge. The way CSX has drafted this agreement is that the actual agreement would be between the town of Smithfield and CSX Transportation Incorporated. And then the town would basically subcontract to the chamber to actually perform the work. The chamber has the funds. The town would ask that the chamber and their contractor would provide all the certificates of insurance, and name the town as additional insured, so that all of the requirements in the railroad agreement would also apply to the town of Smithfield. The contractor or the chamber would provide that coverage. We've been working on this for several weeks also. We thought that it was here somewhere. We found out that it was here at CSX's office. So we finally got it in the last couple of weeks and gone through it. We met with representatives of CSX and the Department of Transportation Railway Group, and we basically reviewed the contract, and we're kind of surprised at some of the insurance limits. And one in particular, there's a clause that the agreement requires a railroad protective liability insurance of $10 million. We're at a position now where to buy that on the open market is actually more expensive than it would be if you purchased it from CSX. So I think the chamber's in a position at this particular point where the cost of the insurance has probably exceeded the cost of the project. And we have a representative from the chamber, and I think they've been looking at it, and I don't know if you want to make a presentation, but
I'll be glad to speak. Of course, y'all are probably familiar, we've been, I'm Rick Children, I'm the president of the chamber. We've been working on a thorough beautification plan for East Market Street now for over a year, and we had a landscape plan from one of the things we wanted to do was power wash or clean the railroad underpass bridge and remove all the excess plant material that's growing up. It seems like a lot of like that. We had met with mayor a week and a half ago. We had one contractor who seemed to meet all the insurance requirements for CSX. And after we got the agreement back from CSX, we determined that there was another layer of insurance, the railroad liability insurance, which the contractor we did not have. We had talked to the contractor, and right, they can't get it as cheap as CSX can provide it. We just received this like Thursday last week, and the holiday we have not really had a lot of time to talk about it, but I have talked to several chamber leaders today, and our board meets tomorrow, and I anticipate that they will still want to continue. I certainly want to continue to see that happen. And, we have raised funds for the project, including beautification. A lot of work's gone into it in the town, and Justin involved, provided a lot of help. Downtown development has pitched in, the Appearance Commission. So the folks I've talked to are wanting to see this done, and like I said, our board meets tomorrow, but I don't anticipate a major problem. But it will cost an additional $3,000. We have raised the money. It could, we would have to just raise an additional and complete the entire project.
How much money do you have set aside for this project?
We have, including what the town has committed as far as freight myrtles and some of the assistance, we have raised, including those contributions, about $35,000.
35.
Commitment. We have received a matching grant of $14,000 from some that we raised ourselves. Chambers kicked in some money. We, like I said, Downtown Development's put some money in. The Appearance Commission, we've had some private money donated from one of our members. And then with the additional trees that that's also included as a contribution. And I will mention that the railroad itself has contributed $5,000. So the funds are there, and we have the money. We need an additional $3,000.
Okay. The original question was how much money did you have? You said $35,000.
We have, including the contribution of the crepe myrtle trees through the Appearance Commission, it'll be about $35,000.
So, and then you went on to the grant. Is that part of the $35,000? You said you had a $14,000.
That's included in the $35,000. We had a matching.
And the five from the railroad is included 35?
Yes.
So we're dealing with $35,000 with all the in-kind contributions
At this point, yes.
at this point.
And how much did the CNX Railroad contribute to?
Sir?
CNX Railroad,
Yes, sir.
how much did they contribute?
They contributed $5,000.
You know, one of the things I saw is that when it gets to the location maps, it said location maps attached, and then the plan specification, it's all blank. I mean, it sounds good to beautify, but actually what are you gonna do, you know? And it don't specify, you know, the contract here is, I guess, is just about 20 pages, but it really don't state anything about what you're gonna do. I heard you say you were gonna power wash it, but, you know, the money that you're saying, just what is gonna be done. And is that complete? You don't have, the contribution that you have received is just to beautify this railroad, underpass, and nothing else.
The project is actually to do some landscaping between College Road and the underpass.
Okay, now we're talking about doing some landscaping doing on College Road.
Yes, sir.
On 70 from College.
I'm sorry, on East Market Street, excuse me, from College Road to the underpass, East Market Street, 70. And part of that would be to clean the underpass bridge. And that's what the railroad is requiring, the agreement is to do it's actually the work on the bridge itself. The rest of the landscaping can be done, I think, just between the chambers of town. But this would be to actually clean the bridge.
See, that's what I'm asking, specifically, what are you gonna do? You know, it said beautification of the railroad bridge. Now we're talking about beautifying College Road. 70 Highway to College Road.
Yes, sir.
And then, but you're not telling us what you're gonna do. You said.
Well, we have a plan, and I didn't bring that, but it's actually on our website. It would be some plantings along the banks of the underpass bridge, and then planting of crepe myrtles and some other landscaping along the highway between the bridge and College Road.
Yeah, but see, the problem that I see here is that for years, the peoples have had a problem getting in and out of, egressing and ingressing out of the Belmont area. And a lot of the older people won't even come out. Now we're still having with more traffic, but yet still we're talking about beautifying, but we're not talking about doing something to help the people's egress and ingress out of that area. Beautification is fine, but just to keep squeezing people into an area and going all around them and not
without addressing the big problem. The big problem is the safety. We have churches, we have schools, daycares, and all in that area. And, you know, more traffic's put on there from the college, and yet and still, we're still talking about beautifying. And when we know anything, the whole road, some of them will be beautified, and people are going to be able to get in and out. And I'm not trying to talk against it, but, you know, when if the plan is to beautify the underpass bridge, that's fine. But then we need to be considering a stoplight or something, not right at the Future Drive, as I said, will go down further so the people can ingress and egress out of that neighborhood.
I agree with.
I thought part of the Johnston Community College road plan included that, does it not, Mayor?
It does.
That's included in the
That's in the
comprehensive transportation plan, right?
That's correct. And the only thing that's before us right now with this contract is simply the power washing of the CSX bridge.
But a line,
Well,
but
it don't
putting that
say
stoplight in, I thought was part of, is that not?
Part of the
still- it's still
comprehensive
in-
transportation plan.
I think,
No, you don't say so. It say, well, just as I was asking, it don't specifically say anything. But now we're talking about beautifying the bridge back to College Road. That's what I'm talking about. We come in and we do some good things, but yet still the people's hurting to get egress and ingress out of these communities. And when we say now, all we're talking about is beautifying the bridge, you're talking about something more than beautifying the bridge.
No, sir. What's before you tonight is simply the agreement for us to work with CSX to power wash and clean the bridge. The other part of that project, which is not before us tonight, but has already been made a presentation to us at another meeting, was the beautification from on 70 Highway from the college up to the underpass. And then in the transportation plan, which is another plan that was just set before us a few moments ago, the new road to enter into the college is on that transportation plan.
Well,
And I know what you're talking about with the road coming out.
No, see, right here, it says location maps attached. There's no location maps attached. It says plan and specification attached. The specification, you know, I know you're telling me, and they saying, that's all you're gonna do is wash the bridge, but yet and still, you know, on this plan, it's not, didn't even say wash the bridge. It didn't say anything. It just says a beautification. And we keep running on hearing these things, and then whenever it's all come out, it's something other than what it is. If it's power wash the bridge, set trees out, it should say that. It should say, be specific and say, this is what we're gonna do. But then, you know, you hear all these other things, but the things that's gonna help the community is for them to be able to get in and out of this community onto 70 Highway. And everybody, it seems to be that everything is being done to beautify and do everything, but the safety of the community, people can't even get in and out of this area on Smithfield Drive, where it used to be Marshall. And this, and the plan is so vague here that it don't say what you're gonna do. You saying it, and everyone else is saying, but whenever it comes down, you got it in our package, but yet still, when it comes out to saying, it says location maps attached, there's no location maps. Plan and specification attached, no. So it really, it sounds good. If this is what you're gonna do, it's fine. But, you know, keep right on going and you're finding out other things, and the citizens is the ones that's hurting in this community, and everybody's looking over saying, well, we're gonna beautify, we're gonna do everything, but yet still, people are hurting. And this is the problem.
Mr. Williams, if you look on that, the actual license agreement, I'm under the second whereas, where it says, whereas license has submitted a written request. As you get down to the bottom on page 88.
80
Right.
what?
I'm on that second whereas, on that second paragraph, it says the license is for beautification purposes by cleaning the facing of the bridge and/or bridge support.
What page you on?
Page 88. And that's all this contract is authorizing us to do, is to clean the face of the bridge and the bridge supports. That's all we're asking if you approve it tonight, is to authorize us to sign an agreement with CSX that will allow us to clean the bridge and the bridge supports. And that only.
But that's what it should state. I
That's
feel
what
like
it says.
well, it should state, but whenever you keep right on going over, and it tells you with all of these pages, and then it tells you that it's about 20 pages, and then it tells you that we have when it starts telling you about maps on Exhibit A, location of maps attached, Exhibit B, plans and specifications attached, you know.
See, there are no plans and specs because all we're gonna do is wash the bridge. The map would be just a picture of the bridge.
But you know, but it should be clear, because what we're doing, we're getting a lot of things, and it sounds good, but the outcome is something that we didn't realize we was getting. And all I want to do is to say, if it's to clean the bridge, plant trees, or whatever, I think it should state that, and not have some other things attached where it tells you that it's something in Exhibit A, location maps attached, and then it's nothing there. Then it says Exhibit B, plans and specifications attached, and nothing there. But yet still, you know, we're looking come through and it's mentioned, because like it is saying that, you know, this is a joint project with the Chamber of Commerce and CSNX. And, you know, well, if it's a joint project, then why is the town really having to, because the town, what is the town putting into it?
All we're serving is a pass-through agent railroad. The railroad will not contract with the chamber to perform any type of work. It has to be a government entity. So the town is basically serving as a railroad agent, and then we're contracting with the chamber using their funds to actually do the work. And they had to provide all of the insurance and all the funds. So they would obtain all the insurance policies, name us as additional insured, and also name the railroad as additional insured, so that all parties are covered. Not under the insurance. But there is nothing else to the project other
Well, what is it going to
washing
cost?
the face.
What is it going to cost the town?
This portion of the project won't cost us anything. Other than our staff time, at the railroad, the chamber area, there is no cost to the town because the chamber will cover 100% of the cost.
Bob, this is a question for Bob. Prior to signing this agreement, I see what he's saying, Exhibit A and Exhibit B are blank. I'm sure it's a standard agreement, but I see Mr. Williams' concern. Prior to signing this, will there be an Exhibit A that shows the actual bridge and an Exhibit B that shows the supports included in this document? There will.
That's what they asked for that day, I think, with the justice.
Well, I see Mr. Williams' concern. I mean, why don't we have those in the package?
The only thing they will ask for in there is, like Mr. Triggs stated, is a picture of the bridge, and we don't actually have the plans. The plans will be for the contractor, how he plans to clean the bridge. We have not contracted, I don't think the chamber has contracted with NARA yet. We're still working with this agreement. Once those are included, that'll just go to CSX. That does not change or influence the scope of the project at all. Like I said, the plan is just how they're planning to do it. The map would just be a Google photo of the bridge printed out and stuck on that piece of paper. That is what they stated.
But that'll be included prior to, I guess, executing.
It would be, before it was sent back to CSX, it would be included, just stuck to that piece of paper.
Well, who's going to do the cleaning of it? Is the town employees going to do the cleaning?
No, sir.
It would be someone that the chamber would contract with, some contracting company. I think at this current, it may be Naren Contracting, which is the firm that actually constructed our greenway. I think the chamber has received bids on that, but I'll let you.
We did solicit quotes, or proposals from, first of all, members of the chamber who were in the contracting business. And we also did go outside the chamber and solicited from power washing companies in this area that we were aware of, and others of those. The only contractor who had the sufficient insurance to meet the first set of insurance requirements was the company there. And that's who we're in discussion with right now. They do not have the railroad liability insurance, and so that would increase the initial cost that they had put into play. So our board will meet tomorrow. I have talked to several of our chamber leaders today, and I did not receive any indication that they would want to operate the project. I think everybody wants to see the project happen. And this is the cleaning of the bridge. The outside portion would not be up to, the top or inside, but the outside portions of the bridge, and the remove of the vegetation up on the tracks and on the sides. And we do have a plan to landscape. I would say that the chamber agrees with you, Mr. Williams, that ultimately that we support widening the road to improve the egress into the neighborhoods on East Market Street. We would support widening the underpass. However, that could be a little while away. So the idea was to improve and to try to draw people into downtown Smithfield from I-95 and make it more inviting to come.
Well, take it from someone who lives in that area. What about Old Goldsboro Road? I noticed that you said that you were going to beautify that, but look at Old Goldsboro Road around by Coors Place. I mean, when we're talking about beautification, wouldn't it be a good idea to try to get, work with the town to get this place? Because when people's come in on 7, that's the first thing they see of what is being done. Put flowers and stuff up on the highway so people can see. I mean, it's not that I don't think it's a good idea to do these things, but what happened, I think that the whole concept of the community is being neglected by, putting a curtain up around it. Sound like we're going to put a curtain up around it and just let it go as it is.
Well, that's certainly not our intention, and obviously we would certainly want the town's support on doing anything along that stretch.
I don't think there's any doubt that underpass is an eyesore, and something needs to be done to it. It needs to be power washed regardless. Now, my only concern is that it is CSX's, and why aren't they contributing more to the project? I mean, quite frankly, I think it's their responsibility as a corporate citizen. They own the property, but something needs to be done, and I commend the chamber for taking this on and doing something to make an improvement there.
And I think it's a good, I'm glad they're doing that. But the thing about it is, there's so many things that need to be done to help improve the community. And one of the things that I feel is lacking is the fact that, like the Goldsboro Road, when you go around and you're talking about beautification of the bridge, you're spending that money, but there's Coors sitting there, and they're still with all of everything there. Somebody should be working with them to try to get, these things. And we have brought this before the town, and then still you go by there. That's our suit. We have had some discussion with some of the property owners out along East Market Street, and they have indicated general support for the effort. Now, whether we can, it'll take some more coaxing, I think, to get them to do some things, but we can sit here and do nothing and let it continue to decay, or we can try to at least prove what we can and try to encourage property owners to do more and work with. There is some interest within our community in seeing our entrance ways into town, not just East Market Street, but really others improved. And it was something that came out during our vision process a couple years ago,
that we needed to put our best foot forward and to show what a good place we have. When people come to town, that's from the east, that's what they see is old concrete plant and some of the other businesses out there that have decayed. And I agree with you that the road situation is poor. It needs to be improved, especially for the residents and for turning into community action and other areas of
And look how long it's been there. Look how long this community's been there. It was before Johnson Community College. It was there before Carolina, everywhere. And all of these things is getting attention and improving. And the community is being bypassed on every level. Sometimes this has to be brought into line with the rest of the town. And it should be a stoplight so people can get in and out.
Well, Rick, the chamber has endorsed the traffic plan that the community college traffic plan. Have they not?
We've endorsed the Smithfield Crossings plan. Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
no. The community college, the Highway 70 corridor coming in and around community college. You guys?
You mean the new entrance, potential new entrance for the college?
Yes.
We've discussed it. We have not taken a position on it, but I don't know. We would certainly support it.
You may want to take, if you have not done so, probably, my recommendation to the chamber is to look at that as well and consider looking at that at your board meeting and consider backing that project as well. I would strongly urge that.
I can't speak for the board, but I don't know any reason we wouldn't. Based on what our goals are and what our vision is for our community, we certainly that would get right into it. So, I don't think we specifically has come up, and we do have the comprehensive plan now that we can certainly endorse ourselves. But we did
Because
recently.
adding the stoplight was part of that. And I certainly hope that
We
has
have gone on
not
record in the past
slipped out of that plan.
We have gone on record in the past in support of improving East Market Street, even widening it to 5 lanes from I-95 to 301. So, and that would include expanding the bridge. It's a big project, and that would be expensive, and it could take a long time to happen. I think our vision would be if that were to happen, we'd be glad to tear up all the landscaping, keep those road lines to 5 lanes, but in the interim, make it more inviting.
But the point I'm trying to make to you, there had been some considerable studies and some considerable attention being given to the underpass bridge. Someone came up and decided that it needed to be clean, it needs something to be beautified. But while you're doing all of these thinking and all these things, there's a community right there that really is in dire need. It's a safety hazard for people to try to get in and out. And with the traffic and everything, it's being neglected. This is what I'm saying. The egress and ingress in that community is being neglected. This is not the first time we brought it up. It's been brought up 3 or 4 times, and I brought it up. But it's still, everything else can get done. But nothing can get done such as a stoplight, a way to get in and out safely. Everybody's making plans, and you've got another plan for the community college road, but there's no plan for the egress and ingress out of the Belmont area. And so this is kind of one of the things I feel like the community being neglected. I'm sorry to have to bring it up when you're trying to come in and do something that beautify some of it, but if I don't bring it up now, when am I going to bring it up? Because it's still being pushed on the back burner. Everything about going into this community, getting out, is pushed on the back burner. So it has to be brought up at some time. Someone that maybe listen, maybe somebody listen to it. Thank you.
Well, well noted, and certainly we'd be glad to work with the town in any way we could to try to improve the egress to those areas and anything we would improve the road. Certainly.
Thank you, Rick. What's before us again tonight, gentlemen, and duly noted with Mr. Charles's comments, and I think they are addressed in the CTP that was addressed earlier tonight. If not, we need to double check and make sure that they are covered. What's before us now, according to Mr. Dix's recommendation, is simply an agreement to work with CSX on the improvement of the bridge through power washing agreement. What is the pleasure of the board that wants to do that? Do we want to go into that agreement with them to get this work done?
If the chamber feels they can raise the additional funds for the insurance or find a contractor,
We can make that motion subject to that being covered.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of questions. I know serving with the Appearance Commission, we have reviewed this appearance project, and I know Lenny has been involved in it. I don't know if Paul has reviewed that. He's shaking his head no. Obviously, I am for beautification, but this is part of that beautification project, correct? And do we need to approve that beautification project in Smithfield as part of this before we approve this? In other words, should this be part of that approval or is it necessary that the council approve that project?
I would say separately, this project ends on November 30th. So it was October 30th. We did get CSX to extend it an additional 30 days. But, by the time we get the agreement signed.
My question is
I'd say do this separately, and if you want to see the landscape portion of it, we can bring it.
The landscape portion has been brought before the council.
Yes.
At some point, because I've seen it.
But
It was the spacing of the crepe myrtles and everything, because I had questions of it.
Well, I've seen
So
it.
It's
Has that
been
been
brought
approved?
before the council.
Has that been approved by the town council?
It was brought before you guys about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So this is part of that project we've already approved.
This is the extension of that project.
This is just a clarification on dealing with the railroad and getting their approval to power wash.
It's such an
Whatever it
ordeal
is.
apparently working with CSX. It's taken us over a year and a half to just get a contract to be approved to power wash their bridge, which is, and now we are up to $10 million and whatever that number is to have insurance to cover it. It's a very simple echoing of the community to beautify an area that is an eyesore that we are finally at a point where we can do. And it's my recommendation that we take action and get this power washing completed. That's what I'm asking
In
of
fact,
the board.
in years past, not only members of the Appearance Commission, but we've had members of the Belmont community come and speak and say that they wanted the bridge area beautification projects done there. So. Do we have a motion?
Yes, then we have a motion back up.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Number three, under new business, utility agreement with NCDOT to adjust and relocate the municipalities of water and sewer lines. Mr. Hicks?
This is the actual agreement that DOT has submitted for the relocation of the water and sewer lines on Highway 70 bridge replacement. They have given you an estimated cost of the project, which I believe is estimated at $555,195. That is a reimbursable expense that we pay over a 3-year time period, and it is split into 3 equal payments. They are currently taking bids on that relocation work, and we would be required to pay the actual cost. This is only an estimate. So what they're asking is for the council to go ahead and authorize the execution of the agreement. So once they get their bids in, they can do the bids We do have funds budgeted. The first year's payment was included in the 2010, 2011 budget, which I believe was about $200,000. Stays at this price, you'll have first payment.
Any questions for Mr. Hicks? Ms. Line? Do I have a motion that we approve the agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve this request.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4, approval of lease agreement between the town of Smithfield and Single Wireless. Mary?
On page 116 of your agenda packet, there's an action form, and basically following that is the new agreement and attachments for processing that agreement, getting it back to, it's actually AT&T. MD7 is a company that AT&T contracts with to negotiate their contracts for them.
Who comes up with these figures?
Well, they are, MD7 does market analysis to determine what they're willing to pay. We negotiate back and forth to determine what we're willing to take. I actually did some online listserv to find out if these were decent terms and rates, and they are pretty standard. AT&T is, I guess they've been on this nationwide renegotiation of all of their contracts. And this is just one of those. They were not willing to, if you look on page, what page it begins on is page 137 is the old contract that we had with them. And it states on page 140 that if they were to extend the term of this agreement, the rent would be up to $10,800 per year. They were not willing to enter into that agreement. We were willing to get them from $8,500 up to $10,000 a year. We are currently at 9.
If they don't pay what we want to pay, why do we have to lease it?
We don't have to enter into this agreement. What they have.
They'll find another tower.
Well, they're actually not on our tower. They rent ground space from us. It's a little shed. I think it's actually, in the old agreement, it provides the.
Who's on the tower?
On the tower, we have, let's see, I can tell you, it's in this packet. The layout of the structure is on page 156, and then, let's see, it was listed in here. We actually have one. We only have, I think, 2 companies on the tower.
What's our total payments for everything per year, do you know?
Well, if I can find this piece of paper, I can. But I don't know it off the top of my head, because we have several.
157
Page
is where you got
157.
a listing.
Okay. So that is a listing of what we have right now. We have Sprint, Singular and AT&T actually merged. That's just for ground rent and Alltel. That's what we have. We used to use this tower for our own transmission purposes, but we don't anymore. So we have nothing on this as far as the town goes. But, no, I mean, we don't have to enter into this agreement if you don't want to.
Well, I don't mind the agreement, I just want to make sure we're getting a fair, the use of our facility. That, we own the tower, is that correct?
We own the tower, that's correct.
Yes.
Now, like I said, they are not actually on the tower.
But we own the land too.
Yeah, that's correct. We do own the land
We own
around
it
the tower.
all.
Yes.
And,
What they're paying us for is just that ground rent of that, they actually own the building. We just own the plot of dirt below it. If we did not agree with this, you know, they would be willing to pay more, or they may remove their building. I don't know what the chances of that are, but certainly possible.
Well, I just want to make sure we get a fair deal.
AT&T, this is contracted with AT&T, the other users there, are Alltel and Singular, are they paying us all to?
AT&T Singular have merged, and Alltel and Sprint, they do pay us. They are actually on the tower. They have antenna on our
Who's
tower.
on the top? Verizon?
Sprint and Alltel,
Well, that's Verizon.
we have Verizon there.
But you don't know what they're paying.
Yes, they are paying $800 a month. Alltel is, Verizon, and,
$600 a year.
and Sprint is paying $2,495 a month.
How much?
$2,459 per month.
I like that.
I like Brent.
Yeah. Brent seems good.
Okay.
Sprint has almost 10 feet of tower space. It's based on the amount of space they control.
Well, do you think it's a fair deal for us?
Based on what I've looked at,
Now, is Sprint paying, the Alltel, that's Verizon, correct?
Yes.
Alltel is Verizon now, that's
Okay.
correct.
Now, that contract's still in place, correct?
Both of the other contracts are still in place.
All right, there's one that comes up in the 2014, and then there's one in 2015, right?
There's one in 2014, there's one that, it appears the Alltel expires in January 2020.
Well, terms changed on Alltel in 2013. Well, excuse me, yeah, January 13. Rent goes up to 920.
Yes, the rent, yes.
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to approve or move forward with this lease agreement?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Number 5, adoption of resolution directing the town clerk to investigate the annexation petition for the State Employees Credit Union. Mr. Emler, I recognize you.
Probably won't want to see me anymore after this evening. I've been up here a lot.
Why can't you do 5 and 6 together?
That's what I was going to propose. They're both identical. This is the first step in voluntary annexation. Town policy says that if we provide water and sewer and electric, the entity that's getting those has to request annexation into the town. Therefore, you have in your packet the annexation petition from the applicant, and you're asked to adopt the resolution authorizing the deputy clerk to respond to the sufficiency of their application. In other words, is it a valid application? The next step, it will come back to you next month for the next step in the process. So this is all delineated by general statute. Both of these things are identical, but with the names changing between the State Employees Credit Union and the new charter school. Both of these will be inside, if annexed, inside the city limits, and both will be utility customers, and the credit union will be a town taxpayer. The charter school is a nonprofit organization.
The board wishes to hear both of these together. We can adopt the resolution for both. That's one recommendation? Yes. Motion? Okay. Got a motion and a second. Those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, move to 7, proposed engagement of legal services. Mr. Hicks?
Earl Bodkin has been working with Mike Colo with Orange for the past few months regarding some territorial issues in the electric business. As you know, we compete for services with Progress Energy. We've got some areas there where we think there might be some opportunities. Up until our meeting last week, where we discussed at length, everything had been on electricity's dime. And now we're at the point where I think the council needs to be advised as to what your opportunities are in those areas, and we're asking that you authorize the engagement letter to utilize the services of Mr. Colo, and we set September 20th as the date for a special meeting to have him go over that with the council, and then after that meeting, you can make a decision if you want to move forward with any other further action or stop where you are at that point. But we think it does warrant at least a presentation to the board on what those opportunities and pitfalls and maybe some of the things you may run into as you move forward with that. We think it does represent an opportunity for the town.
We're not voting to commit any money at this point.
Only for his time, you know, that evening, so if he's here for 3 hours or 2 hours, he won't pay for his time.
It's just that evening you have, it sounds like you're hiring him for that.
That would be up to the council if they wanted to utilize him.
Don't just look at, he's a nice guy, man. Just look at the rates there. It's expensive, beyond expensive, and you might want to have it notify you when the bill exceeds a certain amount of money.
All we would ask for to start with is just to meet with them that one night.
Just make a presentation.
And, you would have to pay him for his hours travel on that presentation night.
So don't
After
ask
that
for a lot of
presentation, it would be up to the council to decide if you want to continue your engagement with them or, if you want to pursue other.
I think it's worth it. I think we need to listen to it and see what it is. Yeah, I put it in the form of a motion.
Mr. Harris, do you have a comment, Robert?
We are wanting to engage this firm to review some territorial issues, provide insight to the staff on potential opportunities. What does that mean?
I think there are some areas where you will compete with Rogers Energy Service. And I think there are opportunities where the town could probably be in a position to provide those services. If you do nothing, I think the opportunities for Rogers Energy to go in and serve them without any further discussion. So I think you need to kind of protect your service area. And when you get into territorial law, it is a very complex law. There's a lot of court cases. Foreign school specializes in that. That's their field. That's basically all they do is, work on territorial issues.
Have you been involved in a procedure like this before?
Yes, sir. And I met with Mike Colo and Earl Bakken at the last meeting. Based on my past experience, I think there are some opportunities there that the board needs to be aware of.
That was on the electricity's time.
Yes, sir. Everything up to this point has been on their time. For the next meeting, we'll be on.
Where are you getting the money to pay for the next visit?
Earl has $5,000 budgeted in his professional services budget, so that would be enough to cover that first meeting. I think you're only talking about 2 or 3 hours for that first meeting, so you're probably less than that. I'd say probably somewhere in the $1,000 range for that first meeting.
So you haven't worked out an agreement on the hourly time yet?
Oh, yeah.
That would depend on how much time you have, how many questions you ask.
It's got it, $500 an hour.
It says 180 to 5.
$460 an hour.
And these folks have got experience already in doing what we're talking about.
They do it every day.
Yeah, they're the best. They're very good.
I make a motion to approve this request.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Bixby will engage that with legal services. Number 8, review of proposal for security system. This is something to follow up for the board. We've asked for this building, I guess.
We've given you a copy of the proposal from SFI Electronics, which basically just gives you a ballpark figure as to what it would cost to do the type of security system. And they've got cameras, they've got alarm systems that would be on the windows for intrusion. I guess at this particular time, I think the actual request came from the council to see what it would cost to install an alarm system. I would ask if you are interested then that we put a more formal proposal out on the street that, in accordance with your rules, we would try and get at least 3 estimates for the project. But, I'm also keeping in mind we did not have funds budgeted for it in 2010, 2011, 2012 budget.
This is primary after request, as many of you know, since we had some intrusion here, realizing the current conditions of the building. We wanted to get a security review done of the building to see where we stood, and this is the response. We can move forward with a little more formal bid. We can take it as information at your request. This is to follow up on basically what we asked for.
I think this is a serious thing. I think that we should follow up on whether or not we said it or not, but we should have an understanding of what we need or what we get. Then later on we decide to get it. I think now we should follow up and try to find out what it is going to cost us. How we going to find out.
More stuff involved, get more information back on the form.
Is there any monthly monitoring?
Chief, you help us get that, answer that question.
Sure. If you're going to have monthly monitoring, it'll be about $200 a year. Plus, you'd also have to have a dedicated phone line. So, with that, probably about $500 a year. This system can be ran as being monitored, or it can just be a audible alarm and
On the outside
of the building, depending on what the council wants.
Okay.
So with that, Mr. Williams, would that be a motion that we receive before we get it?
But not voting for it, but voting to look into.
Get the information back
Get
to
all the
it.
information we need so we can.
Second. Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Guys, move forward with this trip as we will today. Number 9, request for sick leave donation.
The town currently has a section in the personnel manual that allows other employees to donate a portion of their sick leave to an employee who has an extraordinary situation. You have a letter from Mr. Brian Watson, who's an employee in the water department, who is asking for authorization to utilize that portion of the policy. Our policy currently says that once a recommendation is made to the city manager, the human resources director, it is to be presented to the council for approval or denial. We currently don't have a human resources director to make that recommendation to the manager. It doesn't say, well, the manager is supposed to make a recommendation on it. It says he's supposed to forward it to the council. So based on our current policy, it looks like it's up to the council to decide if you want to allow the donation of sick leave for this particular employee. And we've given you information about his work history and also information, the actual injury was off the job. It's not something that he got into on the job force. He's not eligible for workers' compensation coverage for the time.
And what it is, what you're really saying is that other employees can donate sick leave to this individual if they so desire. I know there's a lot of places do it. Now, it's brought to the council, and I agree with it, but we had this issue before, and I think it
Aye. Opposed?
You're doing this on an individual basis, not doing this on, this is not a plan, I'm saying we can do it all. I understood, maybe I should put it in post, but it's just on this.
This is a standalone case. Each case should be independent. Okay, item 10, update on the town authority and an ETJ. Ms. Pembroke? Or Mr. Hicks, whichever. I'll start.
Okay. At the time the town adopted the ETJ into being covered by its zoning regulations, there was not a clear understanding from the county on the town of Smithfield's behalf as well as other towns' behalfs, and the county attorney wrote a letter addressing, which is included in your packet, that was sent to the managers and the clerks, addressing specific issues that were covered in the county's zoning regulations, but not necessarily covered in the municipal zoning regulations. These all basically deal with appearance type issues and condition of the residential premises. In our zoning ordinance, we do not address condition of residential premises. We do not address junk cars or abandoned cars. Those are all done in our administrative codes as opposed to zoning codes. At the time we accepted zoning in the county, in the ETJ, the county gave up its right to zone. Therefore, the county has no authority to enforce in our ETJ any more such things as abandoned cars, condition of residential premises, junkyards, borrow pits, dumps. Those type things are not, the county has no authority to enforce them, nor do we, because we can only enforce what is in our zoning code in the ETJ. And this is for your informational purposes. In order to bring it in alignment where we can enforce those areas, we will need to take certain items out of our administrative code and place them in our zoning code. And we would parallel what the county does. We have them in our ordinance. They're just located in our code of ordinances for the town. They're just located in a different place. So in order to have authority to enforce these, we need to make these changes. Now, they will be presented to you. We're in the process of researching them all out, and there will be narratives and informational packets given to you prior to asking for your consideration on them. But we have had, over the couple of years we've had the ETJ, 3 or 4 instances where there were things that were being done. The county could not take code enforcement action, nor could we legally. All that we did in those instances were write letters and try to get voluntary compliance in these areas of the ETJ. Currently, we have a junkyard starting up of scrap cars out on 210. We have some gardening activities that are occurring at one resident west of town that it's more or less organic type gardening, but it's using animal waste, and it's pretty offensive to some of the neighbors here. The county can't enforce these, and we can't either. So we'll be coming with those with you. They'll have to go through the planning board hearing process, and then will be brought to you if you so decide for us to proceed. So, does that summarize it pretty well, Mr. Manager?
And that's basically just to let you know that we are getting complaints. There is a gap in there that's not being filled by us or the county. So.
And what you're saying to us tonight is that you're going to bring back to us changes so that in that area we will be in line with the ordinances or rules of the county.
Yes, sir. What that requires is for us to read the county ordinance, have an understanding of what it says, and then go back to our administrative codes and see how we need to pull them out and propose them. Of course, we'll be working with the town attorney on getting the format of that correct, because we will have to, these are gonna be legal documents that the town will enforce.
And you want us to determine a timeline, that's your request? It says determine timeline for proposed ordinance amendments. What is your request? What is the timeline?
This would be my suggestion to you, that we report back to you at your next month's meeting with an outline of the changes that would be required. And then at that time, you could, if so desired, you could schedule the hearings, and we can go ahead and start with the process of the planning board and the town board to get the hearings adjusted.
And you need that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve that request.
Second. Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Thank you, Mr. Items 11 through 17 are budget amendments. For the most part, have been no new monies there, if I'm saying correctly there, Mr. Hicks, on any of those. However, we listed them individually because due to our line item budgeting, that's the way the board requested, so we can highlight each one if need be. So I can go through each one of those if you choose, or we can do them all at once. But I'll go through each one unless I hear differently from the board.
I think we need to talk, I know there's one in there in particular we need to talk about, the request from Smithfield Recreation and Aquatic staff. That request, I think we need to discuss.
Okay, I will go through each one then real quickly if that's permissible. Is that okay? All right, item 11, approval of budget amendment to correct the electric fund allocation to the general fund. Mr. Hicks?
Basically, when you adopted the 2011, 2012 budget, you appropriated a franchise tax contribution to the general fund. About that same time, House Bill 117 was adopted, which does not list specifically what you can transfer funds for. The first being a 3% transfer of your gross capital assets. And our recommendation is that that franchise tax allocation be taken out of the budget, and the 3% gross capital assets, which would amount to $298,844.82, be appropriated in its place. And then the second item is that you can charge the electric fund for reasonably allocated costs to the general fund, like the council's time is spent on electric, or sewer issues, manager's time is spent on sewer issues, all of those salaries are paid for in the general fund. So we developed a support services reimbursement spreadsheet for you, and basically we took the general fund portion of the budget and compared it to the water fund budget and the electric fund budget, and basically allocated the expenses of the general fund based on the size of the budget for each one, which for the general fund came out to 36% of the budget. We also took basically things like insurance cost, and we actually allocated the insurance cost out that were actually strictly just for the electric fund. And as we went through that allocation process, we think you can reasonably transfer up to $406,000 out of the electric fund for general fund expenses. All we're asking for is that you allocate $331,189.18 of that to the general fund. And when you add both of those together, you come up with the same dollar amount that was actually allocated for franchise tax. So it's just a different way of allocating the same amount of money that would be in compliance with House Bill 217. Yeah, House Bill 117.
Are you confident that this change will put us in compliance with House Bill 117, and this won't have to come back in front of the council again?
Yes, sir, I'm confident it will put you in compliance.
We have a motion that we accept this allocation.
How much is our hour?
How much can we charge?
Based on the nine, about 2 cents an hour.
Exactly.
Do I have a motion that we accept this budget amendment? second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 12, approval of budget amendment to cover the cost of probationary and career ladder increases. Mr. Hicks.
We gave you a spreadsheet of all the employees that are currently eligible for the probationary increase, career ladder increases. I think your action at the last council meeting was to authorize anyone that's currently in the ladder system to be eligible for their increase. We've gone through and calculated the exact cost for every employee through June 30th of 2012. The fire and rescue budgets had enough funds in their budget to cover it. The police department did not have enough, as we explained earlier, and basically the cost of the budget transfer for the police department for salaries would be $40,622.82. Social Security is $3,107.65, and retirement is $4,890.99, and the corresponding amounts were taken out of the finance budget because we did have a position that has not been funded or was overfunded in the finance budget. So all of those costs are being taken out of the finance department and transferred to the police department budget. And as I mentioned, the fire and the rescue already had enough funds in their budget to cover that.
Any questions for Mr. Hicks? We have a motion that we approve this budget amendment to cover the accreditation as previously agreed to by the council.
I make a motion.
Approved. We have a motion, do I have a second? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir. Item number 14, approval of the budget amendment to cover the cost of proposed recreational program. Oh, do it? I apologize.
Your actual amendment should be for the salary increases.
Okay.
Motion is on the next report.
Apologize. Let's clarify that. Let me go back and get another motion to approve the budget amendment to cover the cost of the probationary career ladder increase. Mr. Moore, does your motion stand for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second from Mr. Moore? I have a motion from Mr. Harris. I have a second from Mr. Harris. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Now we'll move to the next one in line. It's been a long meeting. Approval of the budget amendment to cover the cost of the police accreditation. We've done that. Okay, so now we're going to item 14. Approval of the budget amendment to cover the cost for the probation and recreational program. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johnson.
All right, basically what we're asking for to start an early education mother's morning out program similar to a preschool type program at the Recreation Aquatic Center. There's not money in the budget to do that this year. What we're asking for is an amendment of an expense line item to start that program and a revenue line item that would more than cover the cost of starting that in the first 5 months of operation of the program. We've got a break-even point on our costs and our revenues. And so basically, like all the revenue-generating programs that we run out there, if we don't know that they're going to at least break even or make money on certain programs, then we don't do them. And that's exactly how this program would be run. And then it would be run during the school year. We start the first one in January of 2012, and then we start next fall and run it during the school year. So we're asking to be able to start in January. To do that, we need the budget amendment, and again, we wouldn't offer the program unless we had enough kids that it would pay for itself.
particularly concerned about this request because we have a number of churches in the community that are offering a Mother's Morning Out program, and I'd really be concerned about us, quote, going into competition with these churches. And I know that the church I attend has struggled with enrollment in their program. They've had a long, ongoing program, and I would personally not want to see the town go into competition with the churches.
Other comments or questions of Mr. Johnson on this topic?
Have you checked with the churches, Tim?
We have, my understanding is that First Baptist had a waiting list, but I don't know about any of the others. I don't think Presbyterian did. And obviously, I guess St. Mary Methodist doesn't.
Is there a target group, Tim, that you're trying to reach and who's not being reached by the church community, or is it just still in general population?
Well, we have a large contingency of, for our summer camps, that come from all over the county. And so, you know, obviously our target would be county residents. A lot of the members that are there from outside the county with small children, hopefully, or you know, obviously anybody in town or out of town. That, you know, the goal was for it to be, you know, a profit-generating program to help the bottom line of the center. I can understand the, you know, not wanting to compete. But it's, you know, we feel like with the, you know, with the facility, and we've got, you know, during the day, some empty space to do that, especially during the school year. You know, just trying to think of ideas, things to do to bring more folks in and to improve the revenue.
I know you're wanting to do this starting in January, but can we get maybe a little more research on it and maybe contact the various churches and so forth and kind of see where they stand? And then I did have one question, Tim, as far as expenses goes. We got instructor cost, $4,800. Is that for two, or is that just?
It would be for two, yes.
What age group child is this?
3 and 4 year olds. If we started in January, we would probably have some 5-year-olds. It'd be structured, because most 5-year-olds they're of age in the fall, they go to kindergarten. However, if we started in January, there'd probably be some 5-year-olds that would want to come that had turned 5 after, you know, being able to go to kindergarten this fall. But basically, it'd be 3 and 4-year-olds.
I certainly understand Mr. Harris's concern, because, I mean, you know, I go to the same church he does, and so I know we already have an established Mother's Morning Out program, and I would certainly hate, you know, that if we, you know, we direct competition with them and do something to jeopardize a program that's already in place, that they already have instructors hired and so forth. And I don't know, it may not at all, but I'd feel more comfortable if we kind of touch base with the various organizations. I know Presbyterian, my child just went there last year, and I think they had to cut back their staff because of, you know, just like everybody else, budget constraints, but that was obviously due to enrollment and so forth. So, maybe is that something that we can do?
Oh, yeah, we could definitely call around and talk with them.
And again, you stated that if you didn't have the revenues, then you didn't have the program.
Well, is that something the board wish to table maybe for 30 days, Tim, to give them time to, 30 days, maybe more information. More information, sir?
Make a motion to table.
Motion and a second, those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Tim, just give us more information, I think will help on that. Thank you. Approval budget amendment to cover the cost of the dugout repairs with FEMA funds. Justin?
On page 219 is budget amendment number 7. And basically what this will do is we had some dugouts that were damaged at Smith Collins Park due to the tornado event we had back on April 16th. The funds were not reimbursed by FEMA until, I think it was the 24th of June. So obviously we were not able to get that work in prior to the end of the fiscal year. So that money has rolled into fund balance. What this would do is reappropriate that money to repair those dugouts out at that park facility.
Any questions?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 16, approval budget amendment to cover the cost of police cameras. Mayor?
So on page 221 is budget amendment number 3. The police department is requesting the allocation of $11,800 of asset forfeiture monies to be used as matching funds to purchase 4 squad core video cameras through the Governor's Highway Safety Program. This money would be moved from their forfeiture reserves. And additionally, we'll recognize a grant in the amount of $12,000 from the Governor's Highway Safety Program to assist in that purchase. I think initially, and the chief may want to speak to this, but they had budgeted last year for 2 cameras. The program came along whereby they could apply those funds to a matching grant and get 4 cameras for basically the same input from the town. And that's what this is doing. There is an email on page 223 that addresses some of that, but if the chief would like to speak or any questions.
Chief, is that correct? That's exactly what you told us last time?
It would be, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
And that grant has been approved?
Yes, grant's approved and we can draw down beginning October 1st.
And the forfeiture funds are in hand.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
I make a motion to approve the request.
Second. Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of budget amendment to cover the cost of damaged police cars. Item 17.
It's on page 224 is budget amendment number 2. And basically what this is, we had a police car that sustained damages and of $1,185.50. Those repairs have been made. Obviously, we had to get that vehicle back out. This would just appropriate those monies back into their maintenance and vehicle supplies and maintenance budget. I suppose it's very difficult to plan for accidents of this type. So this was a larger one, and the police department is asking that we appropriate those revenues back to the expense line.
Do I have a motion to approve this budget?
Mayor, I have a question. What about our insurance? Were we not covered under insurance?
They did pay. This is to appropriate the reimbursement from the insurance company.
Instead of going back into
That's
general
correct.
fund,
That is
this would
correct.
go into that line item, back into the police department's line for expenses. Right.
Typically, we do not appropriate monies received through via insurance reimbursements for damages to vehicles. This year, we're under a line item budget, and the police department is asking that because our line items are so tight in there, that this money be reallocated for expenditure in case they do have another accident, and so on and so forth. So it's not something we've typically done in the past, but this was a large expense, this was a large repair, and that's why they're asking for this appropriation.
But it is for straight insurance.
It is. The $1,185.50 is what we received from the insurance company. That is correct.
I would just make sure, as a point of clarity, that the accident wasn't the police department's fault. It was the other insured, and the money came from their insurance carrier. So that money just being asked to be moved back into our budget.
And that's one of the beauties of the line item budget. It stays, that money allocated stays in the budget which it came from. So therefore, you can track exactly where the monies are going and coming from. So that's why the budget amendment has been requested. Do we have a motion on that?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'll be very brief on my topics here. You'll notice on the last page of 226, the chamber felt it very important to adopt or send to us a resolution in support of the crossings project. I'd like to see us continue to proceed, which we showed action by that tonight. So I just want to just bring that to your attention. Also, the other night, I mentioned to you that we had incorporated the job description. Not hearing any feedback on that, assuming that we're good to go for publication. If not, please let me know so that we can get this advertised. But not hearing any, we'll probably proceed. Ask Mr. Hicks to monitor that, and we'll proceed if we don't get any changes in it. Couple of dates to note. The Disabled Veterans Association will have a 10th annual, excuse me, not annual, a 10th recognition service anniversary. Thank you. Memorial service honoring the lost heroes of 2011, September 11th. That will be at the DAV building out close to the middle school. If you'd like to go, they have a nice agenda. We'll have some different county and state officials there. Program's at 2 o'clock, yes, sir. So that's an important date to remember on your book. Also, we have a dedication, I think it's the 18th, Mr. Ragland, may be corrected on that, of dedication of the statue out here. 3 o'clock. It's a Great Merle donation. So please be in attendance to that if you can. Also, a large dedication will be on September the 26th. It'll be a road dedication of the Buccaneer Road extension. It will be on the Wilson's Mill side of the bridge. We will have, you will probably get a special invitation to that. The governor will be here to dedicate the bridge. And a lot of the Secretary of Cabinet will be here on that day. It will be September the 26th at 2 o'clock. But I will get more to you probably with a special invitation. The chief has been asked to do some security out there as far as some traffic control, and I'll get more detail to you. But I'd like to see as many as we can attend that particular function. There's some other dates that I sent to you via email that are important dates. I didn't write those down, but please look at those. I think we've got some ribbon cuttings and other things that are coming up that I'd like to see us participating. Mr. Manager, you have any other comments on this lengthy agenda that we put before us?
Well, we had talked to you maybe about the chief giving you a brief presentation on the traffic situation out in Charter School. We can do that later. I know DOT is supposed to be there Wednesday. Thursday to review the situation, so we may wait till after they come out with their recommendations. But the chief has spent a great deal of time out there and talking with the staff and trying to help out as best we can. So after DOT looks at it and talks to us, we'll probably come back to you with a more formal report.
Mr. Mayor, with all these dates coming up, the calendar that's on our email, can that be updated? It may be now, I'm not sure, but last time I looked at it, wasn't that what
It probably has not been. That's something maybe Shannon can help us with. Okay. And I think we've not put that back together since.
Mr. Mayor, the Friends of the Park has been working for many months now, formulating a plan for a fundraiser for to help retire the debt. They're part of the debt for SRAC, and I'm happy to report that that has been scheduled for October the 13th. It will be a combination reverse raffle, and there will be a live auction and a silent auction along with dinner that night. Tickets are available now. They've been printed. They've been handed out. Tickets are $100 for the event, which includes a spot on the reverse raffle. And I have tickets, so I want you to buy one for me. I'll take cash.
I have tickets also.
I'll take checks. I'll take whatever. But we really, as a community, need to support the Friends of the Park. It's a very worthy cause, this crew, and I see a number of faces here tonight that have been diligent in coming to Friday morning 8 o'clock meetings. We need to support them. make this a success. I don't know if there's anything the city of Smithfield can do to support them, but I would ask that the council and the mayor support them in any way we can for this. But wanted to let everyone know that those tickets are out and available. We have 300 tickets that we're going to be selling. They are numbered, and there'll be a maximum of 300, which will mean you can bring a ticket holder and a guest, as an example, your wife or your husband. And I just want to make sure that the council was going to support that.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
What time was it? Do you know yet? Do you have it time?
I don't have the ticket in my hand, but I think it starts at, the happy hour starts at 6:30? 5:30. Thank you, Tim. Tim and his staff have done a great job with this. We should be very proud of them, and a number of other folks that have been willing to come on a regular basis. They're members of the Friends of the Park, and I ask everybody to please support them in this endeavor.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion that we go into closed session to discuss personnel and land acquisitions?
So moved.
Motion is second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.